Greetings from the Philippines to the world. We are on Facebook Live on Eagle News and Net25 TV and also on our streaming site eaglenewslive.com. Watch us on our YouTube channel at Net25 TV. I am Cesar Vallejos. Welcome to Open for Business. Join me discover the latest news and information in business around the world. Stay ahead of the curve from vision to action. Due to COVID-19, we saw the rise of layoffs and redundancies. Exporters cut jobs. Companies, including airlines, restructured their organizations, resulting to job losses, and MSME owners laid off a number of their workers during the pandemic. The retrenchments can result in legal issues and damage to brands and mental health problems to those who became unemployed during the COVID period. How should business owners handle dismissing their employees if it is necessary for the company to lay off workers? A mentor to C-suite and HR leaders, Jamie Getgood, co-founder of People Shift, will tell the process of handling redundancies. Stay tuned. Open for Business will return after these reminders.
Di man kita makita muli, isang pikit, yun ang umiilaw na
Ito po si Gian Magdangal. Abangan niyo po ako sa Himig ng Lahi ngayong linggo alas 8 ng gabi. Dito lang sa Net25.
ala. Makulay na bahaghari.
Open for Business is back, and with me today is the CEO and co-founder of the People Shift, Jamie Getgood. How are you, Jamie?
Yeah, very good. Good to see you again.
Yeah, I think the last time that we talked was before the quarantines, before COVID-19. And there's a lot of things that happened already after that interview. Now we were talking about a lot of things that affect businesses, small, medium, and medium-sized enterprises. And one of those relevant topics that's affecting businesses, and not only businesses, but their employees, is the issue on redundancies, on layoffs, on dismissals. But given your background, having advised a lot of reputable and prominent companies in different parts of the world on HR matters, maybe before we start, what exactly is the word redundancy, Jamie?
The word redundancy is basically a term that we use in employment law to verify someone's role that is no longer required. Sometimes if a business downsizes, they go through a situation where it's not a performance-related matter for the individual, but the business needs to lessen the headcount in that business, whether it be because of an economic factor or because that role is no longer required. So in the Philippines, in other countries, some people know the term as layoffs or downsizing, but the legal term in most countries is actually redundancy.
Mm-hmm. Which is very relevant, Jamie, because of course during the pandemic, especially when we had the community quarantines, the ECQs here, especially in the Philippines. Some of the employees, of course, everyone were forced to stay in their homes. You know, some of them worked from home, but the others were somehow forced not to report anymore, or some of them were hoping that they could still have their jobs when they go back to their workspaces. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, there were a lot of job cuts and a lot of layoffs and dismissals. This is very relevant, specifically here in the Philippines also, because a lot of industries were affected by the pandemic. Can you cite some examples or figures that are relevant, and how what are these examples that happened in the Philippines, and not only in the Philippines, but in your experience in dealing with other CEOs and companies in different parts of the world? What happened during the pandemic, and what is the scenario that happened in with various companies because of the COVID-19 in relation to layoffs and redundancies?
Yes, look, if you look around the world and what's happened with COVID, companies have had to relook at how they do business. And in some cases, COVID has actually created other problems, or in some cases opportunities, because we've realised that you can do some work virtually and maybe not in-house. The downside of all of that is there has been a number of layoffs or redundancies all around the world. In particular, it's hit the small to medium organisations. And if I look at the Philippines as an example, there's been a lot of media in relation to companies like Adidas and Under Armour, and, you know, something like 21,000 jobs in the garment exporter industry alone. There's other restructures right across the airline industry. Obviously, no one's flying at the moment, or it's very difficult to. So I know, again, in the Philippines, you've got Philippine Airlines, AirAsia, Cebu have all announced restructuring and downsizing at some point. And that's happening here in Australia as well. It's happening in other countries where the airline industry is really struggling. And then you look at across the medium to small enterprises, micro, medium and small enterprises across the Philippines. It's something like 66% of those industries have had workers that have been laid off, which is hundreds of thousands of jobs. Here in Australia, but between April and May, and Australia's been a little bit sheltered. We've got, in where I'm from, we have zero COVID at the moment. But in Australia alone, it's about 800,000 people were out of work across April and May. And we're in a country that didn't have the lockdowns like some other countries around the world. So it's a real challenge for companies right now, how to do layoffs properly and how to give their people dignity and respect, whilst also protecting their brand in this really difficult environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jamie, that is really very, very it's sad that the figures that you mentioned are sad, and here in the Philippines we also see a lot of our friends and families affected by the layoffs, and for some families and for some individuals the impact is not only monetary. So and that's only on the financial matters, on the monetary issues. But what are the other results, or what are the other impact? What's the impact of these layoffs to the individual or to the employee being in an HR environment? I'm sure there are a lot of other things that, you know, some employers or some companies would not realize as an impact of the redundancies.
Look, there's actually quite a large impact. I mean, first of all, you've got those that are made redundant or laid off. For them, there's some mental health concerns. And that, unfortunately, there are stories already out there of people that have gone into depression and in some cases have taken their own life as a result of not being treated well through this process. It also impacts the mental health of your current workforce, because there is actually a psychological term called survivor guilt. And when people go or get chosen to go instead of yourself, some people actually feel guilty and their work performance drops, and they can lead to mental health concerns as well. So you've got to think about your current workforce as well. But there's also a ramification around legal issues. People in difficult times like COVID go, well, I'm just going to let someone go, and forget there's a whole heap of law that backs up how you let go of someone. So you can't just terminate someone just because of COVID. There are still laws we need to abide by. So this is also right around the world created legal concerns for companies. And then most importantly, if you don't treat people well when you lay them off, it then creates a problem with your brand. You just have to go on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you'll see people all over the place talking about how they were made redundant. And in some cases, they're actually not talking very favourably at all about their previous employer. And they're actually saying they treated me with no respect. I got walked out the door with no support. And, this is how they treated me. And of course, all the consumers around the world are now seeing this comment about your brand. Now, as an employer, I don't want my brand being completely in dismay because I've treated an employee poorly.
Okay, Jamie, but some business owners would say we were not prepared for this, and everyone are not really prepared for this. No, it surprised everyone. It affected everyone. So when you mentioned about these specific steps, because we know as other companies and other HR departments in different companies have this specific processes. But as far as COVID-19 is concerned, as far as the pandemic is concerned, there is no playbook, there is no brand book, or there is no specific guide on this. So everyone, were caught off guard. My question now is, should there have been a process? What should have been the process that should have been conducted to do this? And I'm sure this is still very interesting to a lot of business owners, because there might, up to now, still redundancies that will happen. Now, how will businesses treat, or what is it that what process is ideal, for them to really follow as a guide or as a template to handle these redundancies, layoffs, or dismissals?
Look, it's a very good question, because a lot of people weren't prepared for this. Some of the larger corporations out there have processes like this in place because they've done restructures from time to time. But if you're a medium to small business, you might not have ever done this. Now, if you go back 9 months ago, I have been helping companies all around the world doing restructures and redundancies, and because I headed up the closure of the automotive industry in Australia. So I've got a lot of experience in this area. What I found at the start of this year when I was helping another large corporation was, if you search online, there's actually nothing online that helps you with this process. There's some articles here and there that talk about what a redundancy is and talks about the legal framework or how much you're meant to pay, but there's nothing that steps you right through this process. So one of the things that I put together earlier this year with my team is what we call the people shift. And the people shift is a tool we've designed to help anyone, whether it be a small business or a large corporation, in what is every step you should consider in doing a layoff or a redundancy. And the core focus behind this is not about just giving you steps. We give you tools, we give you templates, we give you examples, we give you training packs. And on top of all of that, the number one thing for me is, how do we do all of this with a people focus? My heart through my whole career, and I've been doing this for 20 years, unfortunately, is to help employees get a better exit, because that then leads to brand protection for the company, and it leads to a better outcome for your remaining employees, which in turn impacts better performance. So there isn't much out there to help people. We were caught off guard, and we've only just seen the start of this, unfortunately. A lot of countries around the world, some of them have a process where the government are offering financial support to companies to stay open, but that money will stop soon. And when that stops, that's when people will end up losing their jobs. So we've only just started this process of restructure, redundancy and layoff. I think over the next, unfortunately, this is going to go for anywhere between 3 to 5 years for the economy to recover. And that's going to mean a lot of people are laid off in that time frame. So I've created a tool that is super cost effective, but it's not about the cost. It's about helping people get a dignified exit and to help companies do this well to protect their own brand.
Now, Jamie, the concern is both ways. One would be the employer, and one would be the employee. Both are losing. So when you talk of the business owners or the employers, they have a brand to protect, and they have cash management to maintain, and they have the P&L to see, and they have to check the viability of their business. On the other hand, for the employees or the workers, of course, we look at their economic situation. Now, we can see that both are losing, and as you mentioned, there is a process that you have to do to be able to somehow mitigate the impact to both parties. Now, my question is, how are you able? What is that template, or what is this people shift platform, or is there any specific phase that you have to do? Is there how should both employers and the employees treat it? Because if you yourself, like say for example, if I am an employee and I work from home, and I'm not getting, and eventually I'm not getting any specific instructions already from management, meaning I can my job is no longer relevant. Somehow you get that kind of feeling. And then what is it that I have to do? For the employer's side, how would be the right treatment or the right delivery of this situation? Because as you mentioned, you have to allow the employees live with dignity. And again, how is the process of the negotiation or discussion or the communication between these? Because these are horror stories wherein you were asked to report with a department, and then immediately on that day itself, they will tell you, I'm sorry, but your position is no longer needed because of COVID-19. Both parties would have that kind of feeling of loss, and as you mentioned, I think you used the term guilt there. So what is that process? What is that kind of phase that you have to implement? As you mentioned, you designed this people shift paradigm or idea to be able to help both the employees and but more of the employers on how they should handle the redundancies. Jamie.
So our particular product is an online product where you can download, in essence, a book which talks you through the people-focused approach to how to do this properly. And then we have almost like checklists that step you through all the things to consider, and it goes right through things like workforce planning, how to do a business plan, a comms plan. So there's a planning element in there, and planning is absolutely crucial in this point to do that well. And then there's a preparing element to getting all your documentation ready. You might want to do a redundancy letter, so you can inform the person legally that they are made redundant. You might have exit checklists and things. So there's a preparing piece that you need to do. And then you've actually got the conversation itself. We're actually performing the redundancy. And this is crucial too, because you've got to educate your leaders to do this well. You've got to think about the mental health of the employee as well as the person doing the conversation. And then you've got to think about that whole survivor guilt. So our process actually is an online platform that people can purchase, which helps step them through it and help people guide through the process. But for me, it is really a three-phase process: a planning phase, a preparing phase, and a performing phase. And I think that's absolutely crucial. One of the reasons why this is important is we want employers to think about every step so they can put a people lens on this process. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples why. We had a lady here in Australia who was phoned up and made redundant over the phone while she was giving birth. So it's absolutely unbelievable that we can have someone trying in the middle of labour giving birth and she's made redundant. We've had other companies who have pulled all their workforce into one room and then called out the names in front of everyone in the room saying, if your name was read out, you're redundant. If it wasn't, you can go back to work. So we're trying to create a process so these sort of stories don't happen, so people can get their dignity and respect. And our platform actually steps you through all of that through various spreadsheets. It's got a workbook that talks you through it. And again, you can find snippets of this around the place, but we've brought everything into one space.
Okay, you mentioned about the different phases from the planning to the different phases where this people shift should go through, from the planning to preparing to the performing phase. But now, when you look at the standard processes that has to be done, is this somehow applicable to various industries, to various countries? I know you're operating from Australia, but you also advise other companies in different parts of the world. But how is this platform be applicable to different industries? Can you cite some of the industries that this can be applicable, or this is a general pragmatic phase that where you can apply it to whatever industry you belong to? And also, another question is this also applied, are the principles of this platform applicable to small businesses? We know that for small and micro enterprises, it's a little bit more informal. So especially with small groups, but somehow, because I'm so especially interested with what you mentioned, that somehow you give that person, that employee, dignity of living. So when they go out and they find other opportunities, the respect for the brand is still there. So is this applicable to specific industries? Can you cite some case studies where this has been used? And is this somehow general, that the principles can be applied by other companies in different parts of the world?
Look, I'll start off with the small business question, and then I'll go on to the other industries. Look, it is applicable to small business. Obviously, the smaller you are, is the tighter the cash flow. So people are often already very cautious about what money they spend on activities like this. And it does mean sometimes, though, that they don't always follow a good process. So we've kept this product really cost effective so that small to medium businesses can afford it. But most importantly, the core function of this is to help people get a dignified exit. Because the reality is redundancy is a profound moment in time where you could dramatically change someone's life. If you handle that process wrong, you dramatically can get them on the wrong mindset, which could change their future. So that's why it's important no matter what size of company. But obviously, the smaller you get, you need to weigh up, whether that is something for you. Now, when it comes to other industries, we were really deliberate in how we created this process, that we didn't want to be locked into one particular industry. mean, we also didn't want to be locked into one particular country. So we've made the process as such that the process covers all the main elements of this process with a people focus, but doesn't cover specific legal requirements. And what do I mean by that? Well, in pretty much every law around the world, they have some rules around redeployment and consultation when it comes to a redundancy process. So we don't talk about the specifics of those two things, but we do talk about it in the book, that it's important, you need to do this, and here's some steps and here's some guidelines, but we don't give you the actual legal specifics for your country, because it changes not only in every country, it can change from company to company. So we've kept the principles of what redundancy is needed, what is needed in redundancy, without actually going to specifics for that particular company or legislative country. Now, this has been used in multiple organisations and industries. So in the last few months alone, we've had large mining organisations, energy companies, oil and gas. I've got a medical facility in one of the states here in Australia that's using it. We've had banks. We've had all sorts of industries from all over the place purchase this product. I've got a construction company, I've got a retail company. So there's companies all over the place. And it's, again, I'm not just working in Australia. I've got companies in the US, UK, and across Asia looking at this as well. So the whole principle about this is, how do you treat your people well through a redundancy or layoff? And here's some steps and some good, solid legal principles that you should follow to protect yourself, to protect your brand, and most importantly, to protect your workforce. So, yeah, look, it's very flexible to be used in any environment.
Wow. Well, this is very interesting, Jamie, because here in the Philippines, and not only in the Philippines, but in different parts of the world, we've seen a lot of number of people who have lost their jobs. And with some people who have lost their jobs, you know, they were forced into entering into other careers. And, you know, somehow, you know, the good thing is it forced other people to be entrepreneurial. So instead of, you know, going into continuing their specific careers, they had to go into, a lot of people go into e-commerce now. So now, my question, Jamie, is what are your, in handling, in the communication with the employees, with people who will be laid off or who would be dismissed, what are the considerations in terms of communication? So is there a sort of a template that you have to use? You know, what kind of emotional preparation would you have to do? You know, is there you know, that kind of tone or terminology or body language that you have to use to make it easier for anybody to be dismissed or laid off or to be declared redundant? So what are the, you know, practical tips so far that they can see? Of course, later I'd allow you to invite them to, you know, find that book where they can get it and where they can see the template and where they can contact you. But at this point, what are the practical tips that you can help our MSMEs with?
Yeah. Well, look, I think there's a number of areas of communication where right through the process, you need to communicate to your whole workforce, and that's part of consultation anyway, to let them know the state of the business and what's happening. And we know good practice in human resources says that if you communicate and you're transparent, people will buy into the story and situation that you're in. So we have a communication plan that we attach to this guide that helps template how you communicate not only to your internal workforce, but let's say you've got a CEO that has to talk to the media. We actually have a communication template that will actually help you do that. Within the pack as well, we've got two other things that will help significantly. So first of all, we actually give you a notification script. So this is a tool that your leader can use when they're actually delivering the message to the individual employee. Now, it's not just a script that goes through what to say. It also gets you to talk through, well, how do you prepare for that meeting? What sort of documentation do I need? What does the room look like? So we actually give you a notification script, and it also goes through the do's and don'ts of that conversation. What should you say? What shouldn't you say? How do you perform that meeting? And then the other thing we have in this pack is a leader's training pack. And that pack actually takes you through that whole communication process, from what does the timeline look like, what are the responsibilities of who's involved, but most importantly, we go through the emotional side of the employees and the leader going through that process. And for me, this is crucial. And one of my favorite quotes of all time is by a lady by the name of Maya Angelou, which is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And I think that is crucial when you're talking about redundancy, because for me, when someone leaves the organization, they're going to forget the words you say and what you did, but they will never forget that feeling of walking out if you were disrespectful or you didn't treat them well. So in this training pack, we actually talk about the change curve, that when people hear the news, they're going to be at different stages of that change curve depending on their own level of readiness. For some people, when they hear that they're made redundant or laid off, they're going to get upset and they're going to cry. For others, they're going to go through an anger phase. Other people will go through denial. So if you're a leader, you don't know where that person's going to be at that change curve, so you don't know how they're going to respond. So in this training pack, we actually have a training section that teaches you, if someone is displaying anger, what are the potential behaviors that they will display? And it could be things like they're raising their voice, they're starting to get a little aggressive with banging the table. If they're showing those behaviors, you might see someone that's angry. Then they might have typical types of language. They might get really aggressive with their language. They might actually start swearing. So we want in this training pack to train the leaders delivering the message. Well, how do you handle that? And what are the strategies that you use? So, you can ask things like, ask the person to sit down, offer them some water and just some time to just think and reflect. So we actually use examples like this to train leaders in how to have that conversation with dignity and respect, but be very mindful for the person in the room. Because again, they're just going through a change curve and everyone will have different emotions in that time. And unfortunately, I've seen this. I had one particular gentleman who threatened to throw a chair at me. And what I was able to do in that situation was to calm him down and talk about the future opportunities regardless of the situation. And in the end, he shook my hand and said, I'm sorry for my behaviour. Thank you for helping me. And I think that's critical, that we can take some approaches that we're going to throw into this package to help people get a better exit. But guess what? As a leader, delivering the message, it actually gave me comfort to go, wow, I actually have some support here through this program. I actually know how to handle this situation. I know what to expect. I know how to prepare. And there's a section in this that doesn't just go through the communication. It actually goes through, how do you take care of your leader going through this journey as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good to know, because at least that gives them some kind of preparation, from the time they were dismissed, for them to survive. Is that also part of the training pack, wherein how can these people, those who are dismissed or laid off or declared redundant, to prepare them, while undergoing that specific period, probably one of the hardest moments in their careers. And then, is there some sort of mitigation that you can do as part of the training pack? And the other one that's related there is the training pack, does it include some sort of callback? Like, say, for example, after the pandemic is over, is there also some sort of a notification or email or template that you are recalling them back? So is that a part of the system or part of the approach that they have to do when they have these kinds of scenarios?
We've got a number of things that sort of support some of that. We don't specifically have a callback letter, but that's a great idea. We can build that. We can start working on that. But we do have templates to help you with the communication of that message, because that's absolutely important. And I think just arming people with the right way to approach this is absolutely crucial. But again, it goes back to the employee. We want to give them that respect. Now, if I look at when I was working for General Motors, we did call back some of our employees. In fact, after we made people redundant, we called them back a few months later, even though they didn't have a job. And we did that for two reasons. One, we wanted to get feedback from them on our own process and go, did we treat you with enough dignity and respect? Because we wanted to learn from it, because we knew we were closing an industry and we wanted to do it well. And then secondly, we were able to actually talk to these people going, how are you finding getting work? How are you coping from a mental health point of view? Is there any other support that you need? And it gave us an opportunity to go to those people and go, we actually care about you. How can we help you even though you've already left us? So, and what that did was incredible. First of all, they gave us some incredible feedback and we learned from it. But secondly, we found some of those people, after they were called back, went on social media and said, wow, they made me redundant, but they called me back and are still offering support. Holden or General Motors are an incredible brand, and they actually gave us positive feedback on social media, despite being made redundant. So I think there is some benefit in making sure that process is done well, and callbacks are important. Now, calling back people from COVID is a different scenario in itself.
Yes, correct.
In my opinion, again, we can look at a template for that, but I think making sure that you're very transparent and clear in the conversation, making sure it's very clear what they're coming back to, if they're coming back to something. If you don't have an answer in relation to the job that they're coming back to, again, just say, hey, come back, we'll have a discussion, we'll talk through the next steps. I think a level of communication and transparency is absolutely crucial. And I work with companies all around the world, and the biggest challenge I see companies do is they're too secretive. They think that because it's a sensitive topic, they shouldn't tell their employee anything. They'll wait till the very last minute and then they go, bang, this is what's happening. And what happens is the person goes through that change curve, and because it's sudden, they go straight to shock or anger. So my view has always been in my career is be transparent. Try and tell people as much as you can, as early as you can, and it helps people go through that change curve at their own speed. So be transparent, be very clear.
Jamie, is there a specific leader? I know that this is usually the job of HR department and even legal department, but is it crucial that the person or the leader who communicates this is the appropriate person who should deal with this redundancies? Is there a specific person, like say for example in a department, do you have to create a special unit to have this and to undergo the training that you've mentioned?
Look, there are different schools of thought on this topic. And in some organisations, the HR team will go, this is our job, everyone walk away. And whilst there's some benefits in that because they're trying to protect the company legally, they aren't actually helping the culture of the organisation. And I'm going to say something that maybe might offend some of my HR colleagues, but sometimes HR people think they know what they're doing, and they will follow a process that they've always followed, but not think about the people that are surrounding it. And I'm not trying to be too critical, but we can get too bound by process. Now, my opinion is the people that are leading the people should be having these conversations. And I think that's important because we actually did some research a little while ago when we started doing the closure with General Motors. And what we found was if you ask your average employee, they don't see the boss as HR. They don't see their boss as the CEO. They see their boss as their direct supervisor. So, or maybe their direct manager. So if you want that conversation to go with dignity and respect, it's actually not really caring if someone you've never met from HR comes in and tells you you no longer have a job. I think if we're going to give people that dignity and respect that, I'm sorry, Joe, we don't have a role for you anymore. Isn't it better if it comes from a familiar face, someone that they see as their leader? And that's where my school of thought is train your leaders through this, support them, care for them, give them all the education they need to do this well, because it gives the employee a better outcome. And guess what? The remaining employees are watching you. Whether you like it or not, your remaining employees are going, wow, they really took care of Joe when he left. You know, I love this company. But if you treat those people poorly when they leave, your remaining employees won't forget that. And guess what? They'll see themselves as just a number, and their performance will drop. And I've seen this time and time again in companies. So your remaining employees are watching how you do this.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Jamie, I also heard this a lot of times. So what you do during the COVID-19 era will define who you are, what your company stands for. Jamie, before I will let you leave the conversation, I'd like you to say a few words of advice to our entrepreneurs who are watching right now. How can they survive the pandemic? And of course, if redundancies are unavoidable, if this is inevitable, what are your suggestions? What's your advice to the entrepreneurs? Jamie?
Look, the first thing I would recommend to anyone is don't dive into any decisions without doing planning. I've worked with a couple of companies in recent times who have said to me, we need to do restructures and we need to do redundancies. And what's happened is I've actually gone and said, okay, well, show me your 5-year plan. Show me your 12-month plan. And when you actually dig a little deeper, they haven't actually planned in the future. They just go, today I need to lose people. But then they forgot that in 6 months' time, they got this new product that requires all these people. So the first step is actually do some planning before you make that decision. And I think that's crucial. But if you are trying to, keep your business alive and motivated, the engagement of your employees is the first place to start. Take a people-focused approach. When I was at General Motors, I joined in Australia. Our organisation had a very aggressive culture. We spent 18 months fixing our leadership direction and how we engaged and communicated with our workforce. And our business results went from a bottom quartile business to the #1 car plant in the world. So focus on your people, get them aligned with the values of your business, help them understand why their job exists and why their job is important, and then help them through it. So that's about keeping them in, trying to keep people motivated. Focus on your people. If it's inevitable that you have to make redundancies, I'm not saying this just because I've got an amazing product, but please check out the People Shift at thepeopleshift.com. And the reason I'm suggesting that is I'm a consultant. I go around the world helping large organizations do this. And if you bring a consultant into your organization, you can pay anywhere between $20,000 to $40,000 US for a consultant to come in and make people redundant in your organization or to run a process for you. This product that we've got gives you every possible step we could think of, and we only charge a few $100s for people to get this product. And again, for me, it's actually not about the money. I want people to get that dignified exit which protects companies' brands and are covered from a legal point of view. And if you're going to do this, no matter what happens, whether you use the product, whether you don't use the product, think about the people that are leaving the organization, because it will impact your remaining culture, it will impact your business results, and it will damage your brand if you don't do it well.
Perfect. That's a great way to end this conversation. That's a CEO and co-founder of the People Shift, Jamie Getgood. Open for Business will return. Stay with us.
Tagisan ng Galing Part 2. Who will win the bout and who will get out? Abangan niyo yan dito lang sa Part 2 ng Tagisan ng Galing dito sa Net 25.
Open for Business is back. Chris Libunao, the Executive Director and Chief Sustainability Officer of Smart City Citizens X Technology, has a brief conversation with the CEO of Multisys Technologies Corporation on his insights on the fourth industrial revolution. Let's watch this.
I'm here in Multisys Smart Community with Mr. David Almiral Jr., the Chief Executive Officer of Multisys. So perhaps you can tell us about how Multisys enables the country in terms of tech revolution.
Well, as part of Multisys activity
Yeah.
is to really adjust ourselves, to the fourth industrial revolution. That's why we even assembled our e-technology department already to focus on the robotics computing, including the cloud computing, including the IoT services. And we are implementing a lot of e-technology services for Multisys to make sure that we are ahead of innovation, especially in the adaptation of the fourth industrial revolution.
So how does Multisys came about? What's its origin and
Well, Multisys started really small. So our humble beginning is, well, I am a full stack developer myself. So I am the first employee of Multisys. So we started really small by contracting smaller projects, smaller software development services. So that's how we started. So as a full stack developer myself, I developed small platforms, that are necessity to companies to make sure that they save money because of using the system. And we become like a technology partner of some IT companies for them to use our product to be their product. So that's how it started.
Okay, so it started in 2011, right? Am I correct?
Yes, but the real business of Multisys started like 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yes. 2011, I was like alone that time. So I am the programmer, I am the installer, I am the maintenance, I am the payroll officer. So I am me that time. And my wife is my EA, was my EA that time. So we are only two inside the company. So there you go. After several years, Multisys growth is quite exponential.
Yeah, as a smart community, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what's the business model that Multisys adopt nowadays? From like really, really small, like kind of like bootstrapping everything, and now the business model, business approach of the Multisys, how it evolves?
Multisys approach, we still kept that very agnostic model of Multisys. A lot of people think like we are a typical IT company, but we're not. Multisys is more on empowering a lot of businesses, by providing them solutions, for them to save money and to make money. So we allow them to white label our solutions. So we work with a lot of IT companies. So that's the model of Multisys. We don't compete with them. We work with them. So that's the model of Multisys. So we develop a lot of platforms in each of the industry. And these platforms can be distributed by our partners.
So basically it's like collaboration with different businesses, different companies as well.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why Multisys is more on the manufacturing of solutions, of platforms. And the distribution, we use our partners or we collaborate with them for them to distribute our solutions.
So you would say that this Multisys is really the lead, like enabler of different
I
businesses?
rather say we are their workers. I don't want to be like their neighbor because
Yeah.
we need them. You know, we
Yeah.
need our partners.
Okay.
Our partners are vital with our operation, so they're the one actually pumping our business.
Yeah.
So they throw us ideas, solutions in their mind. We develop them. Once we productize those solutions, we allow them to white label it.
Okay. What are the challenges that you experience in terms of, you know, because fourth industrial revolution and tech revolution is kind of new in the Philippines. What are the challenges that you experience, if any?
Challenges is more on the flexibility of
Yeah.
a certain IT company to adopt what's
Yeah.
ahead. You know, to make sure that all the technology that we develop
Yeah.
should be future-proof by making sure that it can be adjusted as technology change, as technology being enhanced.
Yeah.
So we make sure that we also adapt that. You know.
Okay.
So the challenge is more on the constant change of technology that we need to face that. We need to make sure that we also adjust on that
Yeah.
change.
So being like Multisys is like so flexible that it
Yes.
can adapt in the rapid like
That is
change in technology and all.
That's correct.
Okay. So what are the any like flagship programs right now that Multisys handles?
We have a lot of
Yeah.
flagship programs. So we started these departments
Yeah.
of Multisys. So we segregate the departments into 7 services now.
Yeah.
So we focus on the e-business services. Then we have the e-government. So we have a lot of partners in the government sector.
Yeah.
Third, we have the e-commerce. We're very
E-commerce.
strong in e-commerce, like e-payments, e-delivery services, or online shopping, or gateways, etc., etc. We're also strong now in e-technology, since we are manufacturing a lot of hardware, new hardware devices with IoT enabled in it. Lastly is the e-services, where we are automating a lot of electronic services
Yeah.
to make sure that we deliver ease of doing, ease of doing things
Yeah.
or ease of doing business in both private and government.
Okay. So you partnered with different companies and produce, manufacture your own software and even hardware
Yeah.
in that regards.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and the hardware part, you manufacture it here with the help of,
Yes, we
other
have
companies as well?
We have a lot of partners already
Yeah.
in the hardware business,
Yeah.
because our expertise is not to manufacture the specific hardware,
Yeah.
but our expertise is how to create use cases out of
Yeah.
this hardware to make sure that it will be amplified in a more sophisticated solutions. You
Yeah.
know, so example in the IoT business, there's a lot of IoT out there.
Yeah.
Okay, like sensors, light sensors, chip-enabled gadgets, but.
Yeah.
But how could we leverage from those technologies? So software can come into the picture to make sure that we create multiple use cases,
Yeah,
take
okay.
advantage of those benefits in
Okay.
terms of IoT services.
Okay. And all this, like, the talents are locals, like Filipinos as well?
Yes, all Filipino. In
Oh,
Multisys,
really?
we brand all Filipino tech.
Yeah.
That's why we always mention to everyone that it's about time
Yeah.
that we Filipinos should
Yeah.
excel, prove to the world that we are the best
Yeah.
in terms of information technology.
Was it hard to look for talented individuals to join Multisys? Or it's like really, really easy?
No, it's really easy.
Oh,
We
really?
Filipinos, especially the tech
Yeah.
individuals, the full stack developers,
Yeah.
the Android developers, iOS developers, front-end, back-end
Yeah.
developers, we have the most superb developers in the Philippines. So
Okay.
I think it's all about making them in a teamwork perspective. I think
Okay.
that's the challenge
Yeah.
nowadays.
How many employees do you have right now? Like,
Right now we
considering-
have more than 300.
Really?
Yes.
In this headquarters? How about the other? Is there any other branches?
Yes, we
for
have
Multisys?
7 branches in Metro
Okay.
Manila. This is the biggest one.
Yeah. And total, how many employees you have
We have
right
more
now?
than 300 now.
Really? And consultants as well? Do you
Yes.
have? Okay.
Yes.
And all Filipinos?
All Filipinos. In terms of workforce
Yeah.
nationwide, we have about 1,500 workforce
Really?
in the nationwide. Since these are being maintained by our partners.
Yeah.
Okay, so we train the trainers.
Okay, that's
Okay,
great.
we train the implementers. So that's what we do.
And do you believe that our country are ready for the fourth
We
industrial
are
revolution?
more than ready. We might be
Really?
delayed in terms of digital transformation,
Yeah.
but we're moving so fast. And I
Okay.
think we can easily cope up in the next couple of years.
Yeah. What can you say about, the tech revolution in our country? How can we enable them, and how can we push forward and be ready in terms of, the future and the fast-paced changing of the
I
technology?
think it's all about, we need to start believing
Yeah.
in Filipino tech.
Okay.
That's the beauty of this.
Yeah.
Okay, the moment that we appreciate that, wherever
Yeah.
you go to Silicon Valley, you go to
Yeah.
Singapore, you go to
That's
Google, you go to AWS, you find very good programmers,
Yeah.
Filipino programmers out
Yeah.
there, Filipino experts.
Okay.
The problem is Filipinos are trying to innovate other countries. We forgot our
Yeah.
own. So I
Yeah.
think it's about time to join force together to
Okay.
make sure that we Filipinos, should be focusing also on our own.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge actually.
Yeah. So the challenge is really to convince the Filipinos that, to stay in our country and help, our government and the country itself to be the tech capital of the world or something.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
our goal actually,
Yeah.
because we always believe that we are very flexible. We are
Yeah.
really innovative. We are
Yeah.
creative.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the Filipino mind.
Yeah.
We are survivors,
Yeah.
and we know how to survive in the most worst
Yeah.
scenario. And even in the technology world right now, our creativity is superb because we're able to create something that
Yeah.
could solve these problems.
Yeah.
Can solve these manual processes. Okay, so I think that's our advantage.
Yeah. Can you tell me about, the corporate value, or the culture, the corporate culture here in Multisys? How does it differ to other, companies?
Multisys is not a company, just
Yeah.
to correct.
Yeah.
It's not a company.
It's a corporation.
No.
No, as
It's
well.
a family.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
the-
So that's a
the-
community where the community
Yes,
comes.
that's the difference between a company and a family,
Yeah.
because that's why I always, we always tell to our people that you come here not to work, you come
Yeah.
here to play. Okay, as they play, they enjoy it,
Yeah.
And we discover that when people are enjoying, they love what they do, they are more productive. They are not working because working is stressful,
That's true.
Working is like tiring,
Yeah.
but playing is enjoying. So we train them to come here and enjoy their work. They come here to play.
Yeah.
And as they play, they accomplish a lot of things.
Yeah. So changing the mindset of the
Yes.
employees as well. That
Yes,
you're
that's why we
here.
provide everything they need here.
Oh, really?
They have free food, they have
Okay.
free stay.
Yeah.
They have their own parlor. They have
Yeah.
their own massage.
So basically a community
therapist.
itself, really.
Yeah, they have their own sports community. They have their gym. They have chefs.
Yeah.
So they have free merienda. They have their own band here. They have video okay. They
Yeah.
have everything that they need here we provide because we always believe in the work balance.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. So perhaps we can end with what's really the ultimate goal of Multisys.
Ultimate
Yeah.
Well, I think the ultimate goal of Multisys is we're here to elevate the lifestyle of every Filipino.
Yeah.
That's our dream. Personally, as a CEO and founder of Multisys,
Yeah.
we started this with a very simple spark of dream that somehow Filipinos are now or more than capable now
Yes.
of delivering, change.
Yeah.
Not only the government but also the private industry, and each of the industry they need system nowadays.
Yeah.
They need innovation. Without system, you'll get behind.
Yes.
Without system, their process will be slower.
Yeah.
Without system, there's efficiency
Yeah.
on their operation. That's the beauty of Multisys because instead of us fighting or competing against other IT companies, we would like to collaborate.
Yeah.
The moment that we have this, they can use it.
Yeah.
Whatever they have that we don't have, we can use them.
Yeah.
So it's more on joining the strength all together.
So basically, the collaboration is the new competition now.
Yes, I don't believe in competition, by
Yeah,
the way,
that's
Chris.
true.
I
Yeah.
don't really believe in competition.
Yeah.
I always believe that every strength that we have,
Yeah.
if we're able to combine this, we will be more stronger together.
And do you think that's the heart of the fourth industrial revolution?
That is the heart, because
Yeah.
the moment that we always compete,
Yeah.
we're killing the business.
Yes.
We are killing the the vision of like creating a seamless operation.
Yeah.
So everything will be decentralized.
Yes.
Without a centralized management, there will be a lot of disaggregated, processes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have any message for our viewers in terms of, Fourth Industrial Revolution or anything that you want to say?
For me, I'm not worthy to, to advise or send a message, but with the humble start of Multisys, I think we Filipinos are now, not only with Multisys, with all 1,000 IT companies out there. If we're able to show off that we Filipinos can do it, I think we can do great things for this country. We can help our country, we can support our government initiatives, we can expedite the processes of a lot of industries, and of course, we can build a lot of revenue drivers for the country.
Okay.
Thank you for watching Open for Business. Join us again in the next episodes of Open for Business for more insights from CEOs, thought leaders, industry experts, and SMEs promoting business development in the Philippines. See you again every Saturday and Sunday here in Open for Business, where we discuss business information, deliver the latest business news, keep you informed and open for business, and be ahead of the curve from vision to action. You're on Facebook Live on Eagle News and Net25 TV, and you can watch us again in the video section of the Eagle News and Net25 Facebook pages and on eaglenewslive.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Net25 TV. Thank you again for watching for Open for Business. This is Cesar Vallejos. We live in interesting times. Have a great day.